You have barred the doors, caged the windows, every portal sealed to the outside world. And now you find what you feared most. There are killers, and they are in the house.
Oh, hello, and welcome to Legendary Green Team's Malazan series. Welcome to episode 4 of the House of Chains series. I am Hurinfan, and I am joined today by BefuddledPanda.
Panda is in the house and may be a killer, but you don't know.
JasnahAsABoy.
Hello.
And Ashaman.
Hello.
Ashaman and myself are veterans, and Panda and Jasnah are reading the first time. Today we're covering House of Chains chapters 8 through 18 to the epilogue, and the book as a whole. Spoiler warning for everything there. And I suppose content warning for bad stuff. You know the drill.
Okay.
Okay, chapter 18.
Yep.
Shaik learns about cold iron. Much plotting and skullduggery is done in the camp of the Whirlwind. Leuman begins his raid on the Malazans.
You had something to say first.
I like the cold iron, hot iron distinction that's made in this.
Finally.
Really
Wait,
good.
wasn't it book 3 or book 2 that was called, like, hot iron or cold iron?
Cold iron, yeah.
Yeah. And it's, don't get really passionate. It'll mess up your thinking process. If you're a commander, that is.
I don't know if that's necessarily what that means. I think it's
Okay,
more of...
Don't let your emotions take control.
Yeah. Don't be clouded.
Mm-hmm.
Apparently Tavor is definitely cold iron, and I think what we've seen so far is indicative of that. And
Yeah.
Leuman is the only one in Shaik's camp that is cold iron, and Toblakai can do both, whatever that means.
That's one of the things that makes him so effective. Because, sometimes it's really good to be passionate in the heat of the moment, but having the ability to choose is very good. I like the story where Felicin remembers Tavor as a child just kind of doing set-piece battles by herself.
We get the feeling that Tavor was really never a child.
Yeah.
And that she just really likes battles.
Strategy. I think that's what it is. She likes puzzles, and she likes strategy, and she likes to win.
Actually, if it's a battle scope, it's called tactics, not strategy. Strategy refers to the larger... I couldn't think of a non-pedantic way of saying that, but I had to.
In the common
strategy
vernacular,
is
it's the same.
Yeah. Well, common vernacular is wrong.
I'm rolling my eyes.
Tactics.
Yes, she likes tactics.
She probably also likes strategy.
That too. And logistics, which is the real man's strategy, the thinking man's strategy.
There is actually a quote from Lorik to Shaik about strategy and tactics. And this is what he says. Strategy belongs to the commander, but tactics are the first field of battle, and it is fought in the command tent. So
yes.
There.
Well, that doesn't contradict what I said, right?
It does, because I wanted to.
Tavor is the commander.
Mm-hmm. No,
she's in charge of the strategy.
And like the Malazan military structure, gives a lot of leeway to basically everyone in the structure, which takes a lot of burden off of her. In chapter 19, she just kind of says, "Hey, this thing, we're doing it," and everyone's like, "Okay, we know what that is, and we don't need any more information," which is neat.
As long as you have competent soldiers, competent officers.
Like Renal.
Of course, just like him. Oh my goodness, that guy.
That guy.
He's the worst.
I like that we finally get sort of confirmation, at least Haborik thinks it, that Hood's secret that he told Haborik at the beginning of Deadhouse Gates, the secret was about Fenrir's fall, predicting Fenrir's fall.
Yeah, that was a nice circle moment.
Supports all my tinfoil hat conspiracy theorizing from Deadhouse Gates through Memories of Ice up to this point.
You do have good speculations.
Sometimes.
A lot of times.
Obviously, Felicin Perrin is not joining the House of Chains.
We'll get to
that. Well.
This chapter we get our first introduction to Cora Bilan Thenualis.
Yeah. I mean, does it mean something to you?
No, it just sounds awesome. Also, he's hilarious. Like
It's hilarious.
in the first scene, he loses his sword and he does a somersault off of his horse, landing on the ground, and then rides away.
Well, the horse,
Yeah.
like, something happens to the horse as well. It does a somersault as well.
I believe so. Yeah.
Yeah. Quite lucky, eh?
Yeah.
He has a lot of luck.
Mm-hmm.
He's not. I'm on him.
Oh, I think he's hilarious.
I liked his response to having a grenade dropped in his lap.
Also
Yeah.
survives that in a very slapstick way. He seems to have an unhealthy obsession with Leoman.
Yes.
Yeah.
Which is just like the charisma of your commanders has a big impact on how fanatical your soldiers are, and Lehman is quite charismatic.
Really? I don't see
Gotta
it.
be those blue eyes, right?
Blue eyes, competent demeanor, the idea that he always knows what he's doing. He's kind of like Coltane in that way. But not as cool.
No, he's just cool.
We also get a lot of backstabbing plans in the Camp of the Whirlwind, the Army of the Apocalypse, which really
Yeah.
rings true for revolutions. Basically, those people just work together as long as they think they absolutely need each other, and then work to make themselves the only one left standing. Because that's how you get into power, basically.
It's such a contrast to the alliance that was made in Memories of Ice, where it's like the Malazans, the Tysandi, and all of them. Like that alliance, we were told several times it was very precarious, but they managed to pull together. And this one, well,
at the end of the chapter, we also get the Malazans getting blooded for the first time. Or at least some of them. And more bloodied than blooded, but, it's their first real engagement.
And it was really one-sided
Yes. The importance of good tactics, right?
strategy.
oh goodness. There's a new feature on Spotify where we can ask listeners questions, like it's a poll. We can do that. Do they think it's strategy or tactics? Which one do they prefer?
It doesn't matter what they think. The Ashaman's right.
For all the military historians who are undoubtedly listening to us, they'll be very grateful for my correction, I'm sure.
So we get a little bit more into Solara. So what do you think about Solara? I liked her interaction with one of Bidethal's girls, and she gave her some food or money, I forget, but he said
money for food.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And she says, I'll be the one who takes the blame for this, and just a little nice act of passion.
Yeah, she doesn't even know why she's doing it, at least consciously. She's just like that. She apparently believes in Bidethal's idea that just, you just suffer in this life, and then in the next one it'll be fine.
Yeah, that was an interesting perspective, because
where have we heard that idea before, right?
She's just all into Bidethal's cult ideas.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's pretty clear that it's a coping mechanism, right?
Yeah.
That she
That the Durhang.
How would she know that this isn't the next life already?
How do any of us know?
Well, I mean,
It's a deep metaphysical question you're asking, Panda. Don't think any of us have the answer to that.
We're all in a simulation. We're just all in a simulation. That's the answer.
Oh no, Panda's reading Nick Land.
You all heard it here.
I'm not being serious. I hope people know that. But if you did take me seriously, oh well.
Guys, before we recorded this, she was talking about this the whole time.
Yeah. Panda's a radical skeptic now.
Oh my goodness.
We can't really know anything.
No. What is truth? There is no objective truth. Okay, we're not going down
Let's
that
move
path.
on. Yeah,
How very
tangents.
postmodern of you.
Tangents. Those are all my notes. I got a quote. But anyone else have anything to say?
I have nothing else to say about this.
Okay, I think because you asked like Scalara, whatever. I think she will have a role to play later on in the series. In this book, I found her to be okay. Just like, sure, you're kind of explaining some things, shedding some light into Bidethal's cult, and there is this like underbelly of these people who just say, "Do you remember the dark?" or whatever that phrase is, which is
I
like
do like that code phrase.
it's like very creepy, very
Yeah.
horror-esque. And then there's that scene where Haborik is trying to, I can't remember, go somewhere. I think he's like trying to find Felison younger or something. And he sees this little girl who is just capturing I don't know what reasons really are like.
I think they're
I just
lizards.
yeah.
They're flying.
So-
Flying lizards, right?
Yeah.
Okay, flying lizards. And he thinks that she can't see him. But then later on we find that, oh, what is that weird man doing? And anyway.
Yeah, why
It
is he sneaking
echoes-
around?
It echoes Panic from Dead House Gates. Does he imagine
Okay.
that he walks unseen?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So, I don't know. There's something there about this dark people.
I almost forgot a really important scene. We finally get to see Felison without the goddess's influence.
Hmm.
And I don't know
That's
about you guys,
true.
but
Oh, yeah.
that was really, really heartbreaking.
The
I was kind
starkness.
of PO'd at Haborik for reacting the way he did, but
Dude,
I
yeah,
sort of
what?
understand it. I don't know.
Why did he push her out?
I think to stop her from doing anything about Bidethal, but
Yeah.
um,
Well, I was more thinking that I took it as he was like trying to save her from the pain
yeah, maybe.
of the knowledge that Felison Younger was hurt.
The second she steps out, she's gonna forget it again.
Yeah.
I thought it was really sad how like basically the first thing she thought of when she was free of Shaikh's influence or the whirlwind goddess's influence was, where's Felison? And before Felison was like, she hasn't even thought of me, she didn't ask where I was. Turns out that's just
But-
the whirlwind goddess.
Yeah, and Felison Younger was also understanding of why Shaikh
A lot more than I would
hadn't-
be.
Well, I mean, she's seen it before, right, with Shaikh the Elder, where Shaikh the Elder did not care about her, did not even spare her a glance, and she's like, oh, well, it must be the whirlwind, the goddess, just like taking more control over. And yeah, I think there is this recurring part about how these people who are more on the chaotic side are very alone, and the people who are more stable have more meaningful connections with other people.
Mm-hmm. I will just note, though, that it is a very big difference between being able to understand and not being hurt by it.
Yeah.
Did it ever like amount to anything that that they were like, oh no, we need Bidethal, we can't act against him? Did he ever end up doing anything useful that they needed him for, or was that just shown to be BS basically?
It was essentially LBS. Because
Great.
Kalam deals with Bidethal, Karsa deals with Febril, and
Karsa
Well-
also deals with Bidethal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
yes, he also deals with Bidethal. And Kalam deals with Corporal Adam. So all of the traitors were dealt with by not Shaikh.
And by not
Ah.
Bidethal, right? So
And not Bidethal, no.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
have to admit that all the backstabbing, all that plotting that was going on the rebellion side just felt pretty convoluted. And I told you guys in the DMs, I was like, is this a CW drama going on here? Because it just felt like it.
I would watch CW dramas if they were like this.
Oh man, right?
I mean,
Um,
it's entertaining up to a certain point, and then it just drags.
well, it kind of reminds me of the nationalist movement in China prior to the revolution.
Mm.
So like originally like the nationalists made like a united front with the communists because they all wanted to get rid of imperialism, and then one day a new guy took over the nationalists and he was like, nah, and then he just like boiled all the communists alive and kind of wrecked their whole military coalition. So,
Nice.
um,
Oh dear.
it was very high school, but if you read up on the French Revolution,
Right.
That
See,
is
there's precedent for
insane.
this kind of stuff.
They went through like 5 or 6 major governments and
They did.
radically different forms of governments in like 10 years or something like that. Insane.
Yes.
But did they have an external military invasion happening while that was going on? That's why I used the China example, because there's like you actually have the empire coming in, you know.
They did, yes. They were being attacked and defending themselves. Yeah.
Awesome.
That's one reason why Napoleon was able to get his foot in the door.
Well, there's some blessings there then.
Well,
Depends on your opinions on Napoleon, I suppose.
Huh?
I said depends on your opinions of Napoleon, I suppose.
Right.
I'll see the birth control tea that Solara, whatever her name is,
yeah.
partook. So, from an earlier episode where I was asking if there was birth control in this world.
I don't think it's like birth control so much as like an abortive facet, I think it is.
Yeah, it sounded more like, because she had said she'd been pregnant twice.
Yeah.
And I
And this
wasn't
got rid
sure
of that.
if like the bitter berries that were crushed in the during, like, if that had anything to do with it as well. But anyway.
I think that might have just been part of the Durhang. I don't know.
This during thing. Ugh.
It's essentially opium.
Yeah.
Yummy.
Good for chapter 19?
I got a
I think
quote.
there were quotes.
Yes.
Oh, that we are one and all nothing but slaves. We are the tools she will use to achieve her desires. Beyond that, our lives mean nothing to the goddess. But with Shaikh reborn, I thought I saw something different. His peripheral vision caught her shrug. But, she continued, the goddess is too strong, her will too absolute, the poison that is indifference. And I well know that taste, Lorik.
Bellicent thought that she could retain herself when she accepted the deal. She could not. It's very
Power
sad.
is very tempting.
Mm.
And I mean, she got what she got an opportunity, I guess.
Yeah, we'll talk about that later. There was another quote from Lorik to Shaik, because Shaik was like, does not slaughter of the enemy achieve victory, Lorik? And Lorik's like, mistress, victory precedes slaughter, not the other way around. And I was just like, yes, that is very wise, Lorik.
Mm-hmm. You break your enemy and then you get to kill them.
Right.
Kind of like Lorik.
There was Camus Rello. He said, they all thought themselves too clever, and that was a flaw inviting exploitation. And I was like, yeah, and you are part of it.
Camus
Right.
Rello's the worst.
It's almost comical how they all think they're being so sneaky, and every one of them knows what each other is doing.
Right.
Like
Anyway,
none of them are subtle at all. So everyone knows what's going on, except for Shaik.
Yeah, and I'm just like, you're a goddess supposedly. So, and she for some things it seems like she knew what was going on, but in reality she really didn't.
I think a lot of it was just Felicin is just scared out of her mind, basically, for the last 2 or 3 books in this book. Chapter 19. Tavor adjusts to the new challenge and sets a counter ambush for the next raid. Fiddler makes some money off of a pair of lovers. Leoman learns just how dangerous the Marines can be.
The Marines.
The Marines!
That was fun.
Hail the Marines!
Oh man.
They're so cool.
One of my favorite parts of this chapter was definitely the scorpion battle.
We're full union!
Yeah, like first you find out that Fiddler gets the most the least intimidating looking scorpion.
Mm-hmm.
Also named anyway, and then it's named Joyful, but then you find out it's Joyful Union, and so you kind of like slowly get the reveal of what's gonna happen, and that was
yeah,
great.
like we all knew that Fiddler was up to something from like the first moment.
Everybody knew it because they were talking about it.
Yep.
Right, because it's like, well, and us as readers, we also know because Fiddler and the Deck of Dragons.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay.
Yeah, those games.
Yeah, like he makes a whole bunch of money off of that. So it's like this is just another iteration of that Hmm.
I know I'm gonna regret this, but I think this scorpion's clean. You guys are
I
gonna
mean,
blame me when this is finished.
that is just so bizarre. I don't know if there really are scorpions that do that. Like,
No. No.
two scorpions just like
No, that's not
combine.
real.
But like, would you be surprised? I wouldn't be.
I definitely would be.
I don't know. It's just, yeah, that was so unexpected.
No
is
one
there-
expected it to be two scorpions.
So is there is there a symbolism at all to the scorpion fight in terms of like the larger narrative in the book?
I don't know. I don't see it.
See, I feel like with Erickson there's gotta be, right? But I couldn't think of it.
I think
And, I didn't try till much later. Huh?
I think there is actually. Because okay, this is just a stretch and this is off the cuff. Like throughout this entire book, it was very much about like it was said over and over again. Shaikh, the army of the apocalypse, they have all of the advantages. Like they're gonna win. You know, they were so confident that they were gonna win. And Tavor and her legions, like they had to trek through the desert to get to their enemy, and then they would be able to fight their enemy. And so by the time they got there, right, like they were already tired. And so I don't know if this might be too much of a stretch, but it's like you've got your big enemies, they're very macho. It's like, yeah, how are they gonna lose? And then you got this little joyful union here, coming in and surprising them.
So actually, I can take you. You gave me the ammo. I couldn't think of the
Okay.
symbolism until you said that, but I can take this further. So first
Please
of
do.
all, not only is everything you said true, but also even though they had all the advantages, the entire time they're thinking we have all the advantages. So why do I know we're gonna lose, right?
Yeah.
Which is also happening in the Scorpion fight. But then here's the joyful union is that the entire time they think they're marching to a battle between the two mortal armies, but disguised on top of the mortal army is the army of ghosts from the Chain of Dogs, and that ends up splitting off from the army and attacking the Dog Slayers.
Yeah.
So it actually
it.
the entire conflict of the last quarter of the book is contained in the Scorpion fight.
In
like
hindsight.
Yeah, I can see it.
Lovely.
Korra has another fun scene with the helmet, and he loses another weapon. It's funny.
Can't hold on to anything.
Except his life, apparently.
Yeah, I like how he just accepts it. He does not even for a moment question, like, wait, what the hell went on? He's just like,
I'm out of here.
I guess that's just me.
But the Marines do. The Marines are like, I can't believe you survived that. And also, did you have to be so cute about it? Like, just slit his throat. Like,
did you see that?
I think they also like shot like 7 quarrels at him once. It's like, how did everything miss?
Weren't they embedded in his spear or something? Like the shaft?
Yes.
Yeah, they broke his
that might be
leg.
later though.
Yeah. He's an axe kind of guy. He missed his axe.
He lost it in the first person he killed, I think.
Yeah. That was kind of funny where, it's like, yeah, all macho, and then he just loses his weapon.
A very grim sort of humor, but
yeah. There was some banter among the Marines, and I saw this as a jab at Spindle, who's not in this book, but they were talking about hauntings, and Lute's like, oh, I hope the dead stay dead. I don't want my dad to come and haunt me. And then Borjuk's like, maternal haunting. Now that's a killer. How long can a man stand being 7 years old? And I was like, Spindle.
Most of his life, apparently.
He has a long life too, because he's a mage.
Yep.
Yeah.
I liked some of the scenes we had with Gamut this chapter, and after another skirmish, he just sees the youth of the some of the soldiers there, and he just mourns for them and says, "You shouldn't be here. You should be at home with your mother." And
then he gets blown
you're
up.
too young.
yeah,
Okay, if I had to pick like my least favorite character in all of this, it probably is Gamut.
it's not Bidethal.
Bidethal had a role to play in like, the apocalypse and blah blah blah. Gamut, I just feel like he was a bit of a useless character. Like I didn't really see the point of him.
He pretty much existed to be a walking camera on Tavor and on the ghosts attacking the dog slayers.
Yeah,
so that like, because that would have been really weird if we didn't have any viewpoint on that, and it just like happened off camera, and then we had to figure it out. Not that Erickson wouldn't do that, but
And I think that perspective on Tavor is really important.
the ghost part, I kind of get it. I think he could have. I think the Tavor part could have been done differently. Like I would have much preferred like getting more of Tavor's own perspective. Like we started getting some.
You'd like
at the
that, wouldn't you?
What?
we'll get that in
Oh,
book 8 or 10.
I don't know if I should tell you this, so I'm just not going to.
Okay.
You can ask me if you want later or something, and I can do it. But
Are you saying because it's spoilers for later or something? I don't know.
sort of,
Kinda.
not really. I don't know.
Okay.
Yeah, it's hard to judge.
Yeah.
Okay. Well,
But if you-
one, I'm confused, but two, I still stand by my point that Gamut just seemed very, like, overtly just there to provide certain things, and it wasn't as well weaved into the fabric of the other characters in the story.
I thought he was interesting in that he showcased what retirement does to soldiers. Especially when they try and come out of retirement, because that was a point that was made too. Like he sort of knows what's going on, but the old dog is he's done his war. He can't really go back. He tries his best, but it's pretty futile.
He also has an intimacy with Tavor that nobody
True.
else besides maybe presumably Tamber has. So
Yeah, and we see Tamber like twice, I think, in this book.
right, I have no read on her.
Yeah.
Yeah, neither.
Yeah.
But yes, that was intentional. You were not supposed to get into Tavor's head or Tamber's head in this book at all.
Very much on the outside looking in.
Yep.
Just like Coltrane.
And Erickson has said in House of Chains interviews that you won't until like book 8, book 10.
Cool.
Yes,
Okay. I forgot what you were saying.
I will say something then. So, this is the major engagement, essentially, of the book that the Malazans go through. And what I liked about it is we actually still can't tell if Tavor is good at her job. Because she's just reusing someone else's old tactics. She's just like, hey, this was useful, let's do that. Does she have any strategic genius on her own? Is she a good commander?
We never learned through this book, because especially the last battle, like you can't judge on that.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, most of her enemies were killed not by her strategy.
Exactly.
I think using, lessons learned from the past and then being able to apply them effectively in the present and the future, I think that's a good indicator of a smart leader. Like, why would you want to repeat mistakes of the past or like not, utilize things that have proven to be useful? So,
but in Deadhouse Gates, for example, as far as we know, Coltrane just improvised all of his strategies himself, and you could really see that he was like a military genius, essentially. So while Tavor might be competent, is she genius like Coltrane was?
I don't think she is, but I'm not saying, that
Yeah,
she
we just
has to be.
We don't have enough data at the moment, right?
But we see Coltrane as a seasoned veteran at the end of his career, with an established command structure and an established set of tribes that follow him. Whereas here we're seeing the formation not only of Tavor as a commander, in terms of like applied command, not just like what she learned abstractly, but also even the formation of the army.
Mm-hmm.
It's like this is so. I mean, we can't really answer this until we see. I imagine some of it will be answered in the book named after the army, the Bone Hunters, but the later books will give us a little more of a read on how well they season and how well they like cohere as an organization under her command.
Good points.
Assuming the Bone Hunters stay under her command, I guess. I don't know that.
Are they
You
ever
guys
called
know
the Bone
that.
Hunters in this book?
No,
I don't
they're
think so.
not.
Huh.
No,
No.
Steven Erickson has a big mouth in interviews. So.
He does have a big mouth. We love you, Steve. Quotes?
Quotes.
Okay. So this is from Fiddler, like during the battle, or I think before. It says, now, you let us all know when you're firing, right? Nice and loud, eh? And what words should we listen for? Fiddler noticed the rest of his squad ceased their preparations and were now waiting for his answer. He shrugged duck, or sometimes what Hedge used to use, which was a scream of terror. He climbed to his feet. All right, soldiers, it's time.
I love Fiddler. I had a panic. I was like, oh no. No. Fiddler better not die in this book. Because if he did, I would have thrown the book across the room.
I thought he was going to die in this book.
But that's why I had a panic.
Was Panic in this book?
Yes.
Yes, for a very brief scene.
Mm-hmm. When Troll and Honorak arrive at the first throne.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
There was a kind of callback to Gardens. So this is Tavor. She's like riding through the slaughter after Liamon's forces attacked the first time. Something in the scene below was raising the hairs on his neck. The adjunct rode alone through the slaughter, her back straight, unmindful of her horse's skittish progress. And I just thought that was a nice little callback to when Lorne did something very similar in Gardens. Yeah.
I think the same captain is in here too. Someone makes a mention of having seen this before.
Really?
I don't remember.
Maybe you'll have to look it up. I don't know.
And Grub. Okay, something is like Grub is going to be important later on somehow. I mean, this kid is too smart for his age.
They tell us what he's going to be later. I don't know if it'll be on the page in the 10, but one of the epigraphs tells us he'll be the first sword of the Empire.
Well, yeah, that was... I don't know really, like, what does that mean? Because...
Bassam was the former first sword of the Empire.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
and before the Malazan Empire, rather, Tool was the equivalent for the Talani Mas.
So it's like there will be a new empire?
Or a new first sword of the Malazan Empire.
Well, yeah, he's the first sword of the late Malazan Empire, period. I found the bit that I was thinking of. An old soldier at the fist's side coughed and spat, then at Gamut's glance mumbled an apology. No need, Captain. It's a grisly sight, and we're all too close. Not that, sir. Only... He paused, then slowly shook his head. Never mind, sir. Just an old memory, that's all.
Nice.
When I was reading that, I was thinking I had no idea what that was about, but yeah, good catch.
Wait, what is it?
There's an old soldier that's next to Gamut as they're looking at the scene of the raid. And he has a reaction. Gamut's like, that's fine, this is a grisly sight. And the guy's like, it's not that, it's an old memory. Basically.
Okay. He's having deja vu.
Okay. But
I guess it's not deja vu because he has seen it before.
Yes, he has literally seen it before.
Okay.
Chapter 20? Chapter 20. Absalar and Cutter leave Drift Avali and reunite with Iskarel Pust. Trull and Onrak join forces with Monarch Okem in an effort to safeguard the First Throne. Lostara and Pearl finally get it on. Kalan does a bit of what could be argued to be time travel, then narrowly escapes playtime with the Daragoth.
Who wants to start?
I will. So Absalar had some thoughts about why Shadowthrone is collecting all of this power. What do you think about it?
I think it's clever if that is really what he's doing.
Do you think that is what he's really doing?
Well, I don't know if he's smart enough to do it, but if he were, that would be a really good strategy. Just collect all the power and just sit on it so that nobody else can use it.
Yeah. So the implication there, or the speculation, was that he was working with the Nameless Ones. I don't know. I'm not sure I buy it. He seems so
Well,
self-obsessed and maniacal, and like the Nameless Ones seem to have like a really core philosophy with like principles.
Yeah.
I don't know if I buy
He-
that Kellenbed does.
Well, he and Dancer were out of this realm for 2 years of time. So something happened during that time, which I have no idea what it could be.
Absalar
So-
paints a very benevolent picture of Kellenbed with these words, I think.
Right. And based on what we see of him in Gardens of the Moon, I just don't necessarily buy it. And also based on like what Surly has to say about him. And yeah.
He is, without doubt, a very complicated person, and also very hard to get a read on. Yeah, this is the first speculation we've seen on anyone's endgame, I think.
Other than the crippled god.
Other than the crippled god, yes. We sort of know what his goals are a little bit. But we don't know like what Hood's up to, we don't know what the Malazan Empire is up to, we don't know what any of the other gods are trying to do.
I don't remember if it's in this chapter or a different one, but it was said that before Hood existed, or Hood did not exist at that time. And I was like, so like, was somebody else in charge of death? And what was that? I don't know, but that was something that piqued my interest.
As it should. I forgot what exactly that's in relation to. Does anyone know?
I don't. Probably. I think is maybe Monica Okama said it. Sounds like something he and
about the
Conrad
heiress,
could be talking
probably.
yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, that was in chapter 23, so we're not there yet.
We'll do it later, yeah. I think it's in this one, Shrill and Honorak, it's kind of just like contemplating the tortoise.
Oh. And then the tortoise finally sees them and it turns around.
It starts turning around.
Oh.
Too bad there's not two of them where we could ride in style.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I liked this chapter because it gave a little. I'm not the biggest troll fan, but I could kind of understand why people like him now. And he's pretty funny.
I might be the biggest troll fan. So
I just liked his line. He's like, "Why didn't you take one of those spears from the Imash you saw earlier?" He said, "I am not a thief."
mm-hmm. He's got a code.
I see why you like this guy.
Yeah.
He essentially has what could be a slave too, and he seems determined to use them ethically, and is also engaging in what seems to be an entirely altruistic move in defending the first throne from his kin.
Right.
Or no, not the first throne from his kin. Was it them?
Yeah, the Shadow
it was.
Throne and the Eater.
Yes.
Yeah.
Them and the Seven Faces of the
The
realm.
renegades.
Mm-hmm. And like he has no reason to be doing this besides just like wanting to be a good guy, essentially. So yeah.
Well, I mean, he kind of got exiled for politically opposing the the people who had taken over his people, right? So his political goals are against them. It's a logical extension, right?
Yeah, in some ways, yeah.
But I guess he could just like throw up his hands and
He could wash his hands of them.
right, and then see a Talani mass army under the control of the very people who shorn him from his.
It could just be someone else's problem to deal with, right?
Right. I mean,
and
true.
there are gods involved in this, and I don't know if you know this, but Troll is no god. He's kind of just a guy.
Sure.
He's just trying to do his best. Kind of like Fiddler in that way, actually.
Yeah, I was just thinking of Whiskey Jack.
There was a mention of a Malazan collaborator who was in danger of being assassinated, but then the Azalan demons were released, and he no longer needed to fear assassination. And that's all I got. I don't know who this Malazan collaborator is. But
it really appears like Kalam had something of a big effect when he released those demons.
yeah. Are they just like out in the world then? Do the demons like
yeah, they had purposes that they were going to do.
achieve? Yeah.
Yeah, and they're like, this is too early. I guess we'll just slaughter everyone between us and them. Or
Okay.
whatever the goal is. I also like how the merchant both knew what he had and knew to get rid of them like immediately.
Mm. Surprise!
Mm-hmm. Okay, so we get sort of time travel here. It's a weird thing. Kalam appears as a ghost to an army that had marched through Raraku. Raraku, yeah. Like thousands of years before. And he talked with a spirit walker from that time, who I think was Kimlock.
He was just like the proto spirit walker. I don't think it's necessarily Kimlock.
Maybe. And like it sets up this circle sort of. It's very interesting because it's sort of like a standard time travel thing, right? Setting up loop, but it sort of also isn't because Tano spirit walker magic is really weird. I don't know, I think it's really cool how it's like elliptical in that way.
I didn't catch that that he was appearing to them as ghosts. I just knew they were appearing to him as ghosts.
Oh,
Yeah,
they were
I think-
noting that there was like ghosts along this way, and that's Kalam, right?
But I didn't think that they saw him because I thought he hid when he saw the ghost and he was just overhearing their conversation. And then they were like, "Oh, why are there ghosts along this way?" And he's like, "Even better question, why are there ghosts along my way?"
Yeah, they both saw each other as ghosts.
Okay, I did not
Mm.
realize that's what it was.
Interesting.
Well, the spirit walker can see him too, and sort of understands what's going on in a way.
Yeah, because he's like, oh, that's what they're calling us in your time.
Yeah, is that
Spirit Walker.
is it an honorific or the acknowledgement of a curse? So cool.
Neato.
Yeah, we get a bit more Tlanimas discussion with Troll Onrak and Monarch Oakham, but that can wait for later.
I liked Lestari Yil and Pearl's banter here.
They finally do it.
Is that this chapter?
Yeah.
They?
It took them long enough, right?
Yeah.
Oh, but before that, I believe, he's like answering her questions with his endless meandering and speculation again. And she's like, "Are you even capable of answering succinctly? Do your feet hurt? Oh, the warrens of Makra and Rashan and Amtos Velak, from which arise all aches below the knee." And I just thought that was genius.
Yeah.
Is it this chapter where she calls him out for like making stuff up on the spot and then later derides him for not knowing the answer to something?
I think so,
I
yeah.
think. Oh, okay.
Maybe it's later, I don't know.
I thought it was in like chapter 15 or something when we saw the Odoterral dragon.
Was it like was it this section where she was telling him he needs to stop doing something and then he needs to just like kind of shut up, and then right after he says that he's going to, she's like, "What, you're just gonna listen to me?" Just like that? I don't know.
Yeah. That's
But
when
that
you
is
get
hilarious.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, you can definitely tell this is Steve and his wife. She probably
It's
gets fed up
also
with
me
him
and
talking
Maya.
about anthropology and history and stuff like that when it really doesn't have anything to do with anything. Chapter 21?
I got
Quotes.
Quotes, sure.
So I think Onrag, or maybe it's Monaco and Mastrol. What do you know of the cult of the Nameless Ones? Only that they're very successful. The Tlanimas cocked his head. What do you mean? Well, their existence has remained hidden from me. I've never heard of them.
Troll.
It's funny.
I mean, we don't know very much about the Nameless Ones at this point. All we know is we recently learned they're attached to the houses of the Zath.
Or so they claim. And they also took upon themselves the responsibility of making sure Akarium always had a guardian with him. And and sometimes slaughtering villages to motivate said guardians.
As you need to, sometimes.
All right. If the village didn't want to get slaughtered, it shouldn't have been there.
My quote is the epigraph of chapter 20. Shadow is ever besieged, for that is its nature, whilst darkness devours and light steals. And so one sees shadow ever retreat to hidden places, only to return in the wake of the war between dark and light. Observations of the Warrens. And this got me thinking about just shadows in general, where the thing about shadows is that we do need it, because without it, there would be no depth and there would be no richness. And if you've ever taken like a drawing class, a painting class, like getting the shading and the shadows right is so difficult. You have to really think about like, where's the light coming from? Where would it be the darkest? And shadows, it's not the same, right? There's like different depths to the shadows. And I think shadows keep things interesting. Otherwise, everything would just seem very flat.
So metaphorical.
Yeah, I know.
Because you could say that about like pretty much everything in the series, right? Like, shadows are necessary here for all the moral ambiguity. It's not just light and dark. There's a lot of the
like
nuance often
Corsa?
gets the nuance often gets lost in conflicts, but it always comes back.
Right.
And also pay attention to the things that may not seem important.
I try, but sometimes I'm just like, not
Sometimes
interested.
it's hopeless endeavor, right? Cool. Chapter 21. Lorik ventures into a memory and has some time with Dad. Taborg rescues Solara from an assassination attempt as Bidithal slowly goes crazier. Leoman decides his part in the war is done after getting outplayed by Tavor. Karsa begins his journey back to Ruraku.
So this is when we hear Febril and Canisrello discuss the goddess being Talanimas. And that was like the first like real hint as to who the goddess is. I mean, at this point, I still didn't put it together like, oh, it's going to be Onrak's wife.
But as soon as it was revealed that it was Onrak's wife, I went, I should have known. I should have known.
Yeah.
He told us. He told us the whole time.
This was a betrayal.
Yeah.
And the spirit doesn't even remember the reason for it.
Sad.
Sad, and also, this is what you get when you allow yourself to be consumed by the need for vengeance. I really like how this book deals with that concept, because I think it does say something interesting about it, despite the fact that vengeance is basically like the oldest thing humans have been writing about.
Grief, not vengeance.
You sap.
I think it makes now even more sense, like why Felison was the chosen one. Because she was betrayed, like she felt betrayed, and so her and the goddess were very much similar in that. And it wouldn't make as much sense if it had been Absalar.
Yeah, and neither of them really know the reason why either.
Yeah, but they hold the grudge.
That they do.
This chapter we get Febril's backstory, which was interesting. I do not like this guy. It's basically responsible for the sacking of the Library of Alexandria.
Oh,
Except for worse, because the Library of Alexandria had copies of its text elsewhere. This seemed to have like the only stuff, right?
Even worse.
Even worse.
I still like as much as I dislike the guy, I still kind of felt bad for him afterward.
Yeah, I really don't like those who burn books. I'm very anti-book burning, so I have strong feelings here.
But what if we were in like a nuclear winter and you needed warmth and all you had were books?
All I had were books? I would question the nature of my predicament, but I do think there is a big difference between burning books because you'll literally die otherwise, and burning books because you want to destroy knowledge.
That
like,
is fair.
You know, going to the town book burning, and everyone brings their books so they can toss it on a big fire. And by the way, The Book Thief is a good book. I recommend
I got to halfway. The writing was too pretentious for me.
I frown at you. I think I read it in like grade 7 or something like that.
You can frown
Pretentious
at
is
me.
a
It's
word.
okay.
Pretentious is a good word to describe Ashaman's reading tastes.
Maybe.
All right. Sorry. Back on topic. Lorik and his father were reunited for a little bit. Osric is not quite what I was expecting, but cool.
He's pretty much exactly what I expected.
Really?
But I loved it. Yes. Like to a T.
Yeah.
That was the least surprising thing was what he was like ever. Though there was some really cool stuff that I didn't expect in the pocket warren with him, or the memory, or whatever it was.
Yeah.
Like the
Like what?
the him being there to observe the Kachin Shamala like sky cubes coming in, and him talking about how Rake got a moonspawn, and the reason why the Kachin Shamal never colonized 7 cities, which if they had, like, who knows how things would have turned out differently. Like, all that stuff was fun. And we got to see a Kel Hunter fight some Hounds of Darkness. Like,
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that's the memory, right, where he saw the Proto Imas working with, was it the Daragoth or the?
With the Daragoth, yeah.
And it was kind of like a
Coexistence.
It's kind of like a symbiotic relationship.
That's it. Thank you.
Skewed in the favor of the Daragoth.
It's like a
And this-
reversal of what humans think about their past with wolves.
Oh,
right?
yeah.
And dogs.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because they're like, oh, you think humans domesticated dogs? Nah.
The leading theory, I think, now is that wolves domesticated themselves, essentially.
Great.
Yeah. Oh man, I love the memory. It's so cool. And also, we learn that the Kachin Shamal aren't native to this world. They are aliens, and they presumably have a spacefaring empire of some kind, or at least come
Wait,
from a
what?
more advanced
Yeah.
civilization.
I guess I missed that part.
Well,
Yeah,
they came
me
with
too.
their sky keeps, right? With like super advanced technology.
I figured it was just another
Sure.
Warren.
Yeah, maybe from another Warren, but they're not native to this place.
I didn't know that. I didn't get that out of this.
Well,
I got
now
that they
you
weren't
do.
native to 7 cities. But
Well, that too. Yeah, and they just have a bunch of really cool technology. Well done, Kachin Shamal.
In the conversation between Osric and Lorik, Osric says it's all her fault. And I'm just like, well, who is he referring to? Is it Lorik's mother?
That's what I thought.
I see.
there was a
But I
lot
have-
of shade thrown on Lorg's mother in that sequence, so that's possible. Could be her, could be Triss.
Yeah, you really get the sense that Osric is just kind of like a hardworking single dad. Doing the
Yeah,
best he
especially
can
at
for his
the-
poor Lorik.
Yeah, at
No.
the end. Grey Frog? Oh my goodness. I
Grey
love
Frog.
Grey
Great
Frog. Such a polite demon. Love him.
So I'm curious about something, and this might be something you can't answer yet because maybe it's like explored more in the later books, right? But this term demon, we've seen it used in ways where it's just humans describing aliens that they don't understand or have a word for. Like they were calling the Kachin Shamal Kel Hunters demons in Memories of Ice. Yeah, I was curious if there's actually like a genus or species called demon. Like, I know it's a catch-all for all these beings from other worlds, right? But I'm like, are they actually demons, or are they just other aliens from other worlds that humans don't understand and they're using this word demon to describe that? Or is it like the word dinosaur? That's a catch-all for all these, creatures are, part of this family of species or subspecies. You know what I mean? Like is it
Yeah.
just like the word witchcraft, or is it like the word dinosaur? I don't know. Do you guys have an answer for this?
Yeah. Demon is kind of used as a catch-all term for other.
Mhm.
So like with things that people aren't familiar with. It's like if they knew about Kachin Shamal, they probably call them Kachin Shamal. If they didn't, they're just going to call them demons. If they, it's just a way of separating yourself from the other. In general, it's just referred to as creatures living in other warrens that come.
So they're not part of like a parent genus or a parent species. Like Aptorians are like a whole separate species from whatever Gray Frog is.
I don't believe so.
You don't believe that they are a family, is what you're saying? They're separate. Okay.
Yes.
Yeah,
Thanks.
they all sort of just like come from different realities. Gray Frog came from a really weird one. Chapter 22. Strings begins to come to terms with the fact that he's not fooling anybody anymore. Gamut is convinced to take up the title of Fist again. The whirlwind withdraws before Tavor's advance.
We get introduced to the idea of a nefarious bread. Sounds like a
Nefarious
legend.
Bread. He sounds like a cool guy.
Yeah, I want to know him better.
And in that scene, we have an amazing bit of humor because they're talking about whether soldiers' names are their real names or not. They're trying to call Fiddler out for Strings not being his real name, and it says Strings glanced over at another soldier from the 9th Squad, a man standing nearby, looking as if he wanted to kill something. And what about him? What's his name again? Throat Slitter? Did his ma decide on that for a little one, do you think? And the other guy's like, can't say. Give a toddler a knife and who knows what'll happen.
And his squad mates are Dead Smell and Widdershins.
I do love their names.
Very black company.
I do not want to meet Dead Smell.
Right. And not really a spoiler, but I will say there's another one that's going to come in with a name that is so edgy and fantastic.
I know who you're talking about.
Yeah, you know who you're talking about.
I love him.
He's so funny.
Okay. Is this like in the next book? And that's 2 books?
Not in the next book. Maybe in
Okay.
Bone Hunters though.
I think in Bone Hunters.
Okay.
Next book, by the way, is not on this continent. It will not deal with these things.
Okay. Yeah, it's some sort of prequel, not prequel thing.
I
Yeah,
have a prediction about that.
it's Troll's story.
Ah, damn it! That was my prediction.
Well,
Oh.
yeah. Yeah.
I didn't actually know that.
Oh,
but
okay.
I was
It would have been
thinking that-
revealed. It would have been revealed in the basically first page, anyways. First page of chapter 1.
I was like, oh, so they're closing out with this epilogue and Troll's telling it, and I know this other book's on another continent, it's a prequel, so how does he get to a prequel? This is framing the next book, and
Yeah,
I'm so
You're,
excited about that prediction, and you just
you're right.
took it from me.
You were right, yes, no. I didn't even have a prediction. I was just like, cool, he's going to tell a story. Do we get to hear it?
I do have a prediction for what happens after he finishes his story, but we can wait till the epilogue for that.
There we go.
Okay. My one note from this chapter was the distinction of responsibilities for a soldier and a leader. And that was basically told to Gamut, like, you don't need to be in the heat of battle and fighting. All you need to do is be the core. Be the core, and we saw this with Ecovian, where he didn't do the, all the fighting, but he was that switchboard and he was like observing, right? And just like this contrast between these two, it had me appreciating Ecovian more. And Gamut's like, fine, I'll be the fist.
And then he doesn't
So
really get to.
reluctant.
He's
No,
also
he
told him that
doesn't.
Renal was elevated to a position he should not be at, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh my goodness, that freaking dude.
Well, that didn't last long anyway.
Good.
Oh yeah, and even though that he's resumed his position, Gamut notes that Tavor has lost faith in him.
Yep.
Oof.
Any other quotes or questions?
I appreciate Gessler.
I always appreciate Gessler.
He's a really cool dude.
He is,
I like Ben
from
Roach.
the moment he talked crap to Diker, or Duiker, rather.
Chapter 23. Trull is convinced to tell his sad story, catches the eye of another lady, and his party meets up with a shadow army of children. Lestar gives Pearl a bonk so she can talk behind his back with another boy. Absolar leaves Cutter.
The only notes I have for this chapter are I really enjoyed the conversation between Cotillion and Apsalar and her decisions to leave, even though I think it's a stupid decision.
You think it's a stupid decision? Why?
Why? Because she's doing the same thing that Crocus is doing to her, and talk to each other and work out their problems.
The the observations about love and about the conflict within Absalor in that conversation were really awesome.
And I think Cotillion was right too about his about love in general, and with Crocus's love for her.
So, is the epigraph about Karsa? You guys can't answer because that would be a spoiler.
Hold on,
that
I have
one.
to look. Yeah.
I got it right here as my quote, or one of my quotes. It says, "Who among the pantheon would the fallen one despise and fear the most? Consider the last chaining, in which Hood, Fainur, the Queen of Dreams, Osirk, and Opon all participated, in addition to Animander Rake, Caladan Brood, and a host of other ascendants. It is not so surprising, then, that the crippled god could not have anticipated that his deadliest enemy was not found among those mentioned."
Yasna, I think you are correct in your reading of the epigraph.
I can confirm that you read the epigraph.
Also, freaking chainings, plural. Anyway.
To add to Troll's coolness, he uses the almost objectively correct weapon for the setting, a spear, which is just, go Troll, just being optimal, min-maxing, power player. Because, we have a conception of swords as, being better than spears in some way. They're not, pretty much in any circumstance ever. Spears, pretty much universally better.
The
Unless you want,
only
a sidearm.
challenge with the spear is if you have your back towards a wall, in which then you may not have enough room to maneuver a spear.
Oh, sort of.
I prefer trebuchets.
Trebuchets, very effective, not practical for hand-to-hand combat.
You're just not trying hard enough.
Maybe. I like that we get to see the Talon Warren, and all throughout it, there are the scars of Omtos Falak. The Jagat and the Talani Mas have left a lot of marks on each other. Because Omtos Falak has the scars of Talon.
Yeah, anyway. Do you think that... Who is this? The Eaters? No, Troll. Troll thinks that everything is a zero-sum game.
Yes, he believes in the notion of balance on a cosmic scale. Yeah, I like the idea. I'm very sympathetic to the notion of balance. It's probably my favorite thing about Eastern philosophy, that it kind of brings that in when it really isn't in much of Western philosophy at all. Just another perspective of things, not as a war of good versus evil, but of opposing forces finding balance and thus making the world go around.
I feel like I don't want to believe that it's all a zero-sum game, but I kind of naturally think that. Anything good that happens, I'm like, all right, something bad's gonna happen now.
That's my wife.
I don't believe in it on an individual level. Because there are plenty of bad people that lead happy, fulfilling lives and die happy. And plenty of good people that just live in misery. Woohoo. Troll precedes his story with that thing about balance, and answers one of Onrak's statements with a smile of sadness overwhelming, of utter despair. Doesn't that set up the next book nicely? What kind of story do you think you guys think it's going to be? Because we know how it's going to end.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I thought the next book is supposed to be funny.
It is. It's the funniest.
Yeah, it's really funny.
Okay. Okay, I have to admit something because, because nothing. If I didn't know that the next book was going to be quote unquote many, people's favorite of the series.
My favorite.
Okay. Well, it's a lot of people's favorite from what I understand.
It's true.
I probably would have been like, you guys, I'm sorry. After this one, I need a huge break. Yeah. Anyway.
Well, you're getting something of a break.
Yeah. It's this book was not my favorite.
It's my favorite book I've ever read.
You need to read better books. I'm just kidding.
Oh,
I'm kidding.
oh, word.
Them's fighting words on the Malazan podcast, Missy.
Come at me, I guess. Actually, please don't.
You're laughing too hard to come at you.
This is the chapter where it was brought up that Hood did not always exist.
Ah.
And that is an interesting thought. And I can't remember who said it though.
I imagine Monogokum or Onrek.
Yeah. I do believe that is correct. Poor Troll, man. He's not having a good way of things. He makes eye contact with a girl and she just kind of forcefully takes his seed.
Yeah, that's messed up.
It just went dark for a moment and then boom.
Yeah,
Troll
there's some witch lady that just came out of nowhere.
Yeah, the
I-
heiress. The people who existed before the Imas.
I really did not follow that part.
So they precede the Imas, and also their species was all the equivalent of a bone caster. So they're very much like blurred between animal and human. It's really hard to tell what their goals are or like what they're trying to achieve because they just don't think in the same way.
All you need to know is that one of them stole Troll's sperm.
Mm-hmm.
Like all of it or just some of it? Can he still procreate?
I think it'd be hard to take all of it.
Yeah, they didn't
Okay.
castrate him, which is good.
Okay.
Yeah,
I mean,
nor are they
he's so
strictly
young.
castrated.
He's never even, laid with
woman.
another.
Didn't he mention that he's like 80 or something?
But
at the
he's a
beginning of the book?
youth in the.
No, yeah, relatively
in the
speaking, yeah.
Eater, right? Because Onrak and him had this like really nice bro talk about marriage and, no
Mhm.
sex before marriage and their culture. And he's like, oh, you
Onrak's the
haven't.
one to listen to about marriage.
Well, I don't really blame Onrak for cheating when he did, because he was about to be exiled, and his marriage was essentially dissolved at that point. So,
I mean, if
You
he
know.
didn't, I mean,
what are you gonna
Trixie
do?
probably wouldn't be around.
Who wouldn't have been?
The goddess.
Oh, yeah, well, I don't think we can blame him for that. Like,
I
you
disagree.
never think that your essentially ex-wife is going to turn into a deity and murder you.
Apparently, she didn't think of him as his ex-wife.
Well, she had a very toxic view of the relationship. I think she admitted that she was also cheating and kind of sowed
that.
rumors about him everywhere.
So I didn't read that way. I read that as the IMAS had a similar culture around so-called cheating to the Barghast, where they kind of made a game about sleeping with each other. She said, she talked about how the other women like would sleep with other men's husbands, and she let some of them into her bed, or into her tent rather, but that you don't give your heart to those people.
Yeah.
And that's what made him what the cheating was. So from their cultural perspective, the cheating is not the sexual act, it's the romance, the romantic relationship.
Like, he unintentionally drew a picture of her.
Of
I think it's
Kalava.
of Kalava, yes. And then
Unintentionally?
Yeah, he did it in the dark. And then when he saw the light, he was like, "Oh, that's what I did." Oh no.
Oh, I didn't
And
realize
then she got Kalava to kill her entire tribe or clan. So I think there's pretty clearly someone in the wrong here, right?
I didn't read it as he told Kalava to go kill all those people, all their tribe. That was what Kalava that was her own choice.
Let me see if I can find this. You guys can continue if you want.
So there was some sort of shiny rock that Lestara picked up, and Pearl saw her pick it up, and he tried to ask her about it, and then she just conked him on the head. Yasna, do you have any thoughts as to what the shiny rock is?
something to
it
do
was
with Cotillion.
it was the acorn that Cotillion gave to Kalam.
Yeah,
Really?
something that Kalam dropped.
Mm-hmm.
That's it? Okay.
It summoned
Wait.
Quick Ben.
Wait, what? Lestara Yill had Kalam's acorn?
She picked it up from the Imperial Warren. Cotillion was like, "Can I have that?" She gave it to Cotillion. Cotillion dropped it nearby a tree. Kalam was like, "I know that acorn."
Oh,
I completely missed that that's the acorn that summoned Quick Ben.
I was wondering why Quickbin came out of an acorn, and now that you said all that, it's a reference to him using mundane objects as like things to let him like do magic stuff, right? Like invested. Yeah. Okay.
Maybe Quickbin is part Jackhut.
Right, that's where my mind first went. Was like a Jaghut finished, and I was like, "What does a Jaghut have to do with any of this?"
Well, I was thinking, okay, ha ha ha, joke, acorn. That's it.
Okay. This is the whirlwind goddess. She's talking about how he'd given his heart to another, and then she says, "Another who would not even give her heart in return. She had seen to that, with vicious words and challenging accusations, enough to encourage the others to banish her forever, but not before the bitch killed all but one of her kin. Foolish, stupid man to have given his love to that woman."
So that implies perhaps that Kalava killed all but one of her kin in response to the banishment.
Yes, to getting banished from her own tribe. Yes.
Right, and that has nothing to do with Onrag telling her to go kill those people.
No, I
He was
I never
saying the
meant that
whirlwind goddess.
Yeah, the whirlwind goddess was the one who precipitated that. Onrak is essentially just a guy that had sex with Kalava and then was banished.
Okay, I
and he
think
made
I
her
got
immortal.
confused
Fell
about
in
what
love
you were
with
trying to say.
Kalava.
Wow.
Onrag is not blameless. He cheated on his wife. She was pissed. Her actions don't make it right either, but Onrag is not guiltless.
Anyways, Kalava then gave birth to the human race, which, yeah,
Is that really what happened?
yeah, that's why the whirlwind goddess wants to kill everybody, to kill all of their children.
Oh, she said that, and I was like, "Who are her children gonna end up?"
Yeah,
being?
I was very confused. I was like, I didn't think that Kalava was really the mother of all human race.
Well,
And-
like, maybe not all of it. Like, as we know, there's interbreeding between peoples, but she says the children swarmed the surface of the world, and who was the mother? None other than the person who had been banished, and their father. Oh yes, she went to him. On that last night she did. He reeked of her when they dragged him into the light the following morning. Reeked of her. The truth was there in his eyes.
So yeah, I understand that part. It's just
Mhm.
I didn't believe her. I thought she was being very the goddess was exaggerating. But apparently Kalava, I mean, I don't know how long ago this would have been for Kalava to have given birth and then that offspring to have reproduced.
300,000
You do
years.
know. You do
Oh,
know
right, because of the ritual.
Because
Yeah.
right afterwards, right after Kalava gives birth, she goes and rescues those two Jaghut children.
Mhm.
So whatever the time the fake timestamp is in the prologue to Memories device is the
Well, I guess it's the ritual would mark the time because that's when they all became Telanimas and she
Yeah.
didn't.
The children will die. I will cleanse the world of their beget. The proud-eyed vermin, born one and all of that single mother. Of course she could not join the ritual. A new world waited within her.
Okay.
This is a very jealous woman.
Yes.
Jealousy can kill.
And it does. Especially in this instance.
So is Manala like Cotillion and Shadow Throne's, first mate or something? Because she's like protecting the first throne with her 1,300 killer children and Panic and Apt.
Goals, eh? Okay, good. Chapter 24. The Malazans arrive in Raraku, and others begin to hear the song. Korab seems to be on a lucky streak. The camp of the Whirlwind is beset by all manner of assassins. Hiborik takes a quarrel or two for the team. Lorik gets stabbed in the back, and Corbolodom goes rogue. The Leosin display a sort of humility.
I've got like nothing to say about this chapter.
Nope, me neither.
Korab losing another weapon. That's all I got.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Leosin anatomy is significantly different from human anatomy.
I noticed
and
that.
Yeah, his heart's not where it should be.
It's like a time loop.
That's exactly
Yeah,
where it
right?
should be. He's Leosin.
Okay, it's where it should be if he's Leosin, but not if he's human, which everyone else thought he was.
I thought he was dead
Yeah.
the first time.
Corolodom goes crazy. And
Goes
I
crazy.
think everyone hates him, right? Well, like his craziness is unleashed on the world. And then we have the scene with Leosin, who are hiding from Karsa because
He knew they were there.
they were there. I just like how rude of an awakening they've had. They just gallop out of the warren on their shining horses with their shining armor and their shining weapons, and immediately almost get seriously challenged, let's say, and then betrayed, and are indirectly responsible for the death of their god. And it's just been nothing but humbling ever since.
So humbling that they end up being like, but maybe we should go home, lick our wounds, and then hunt a dragon instead. This is too much.
Cool.
I guess chapter 25 then.
Yep.
Yes.
Karsa carves a bloody path through the camp, culminating by showing off his inner dog whisperer and disciplining some bad boys. Mathok decides to cut his losses and flee with the holy book. Kalam does some stabbing and is outclassed by his patron, and later receives some unforeseen aid in his capturing of Corporal Adam. Reroku balances the scales with the dog slayers. Kalam does Pearl a favor.
This is the chapter where Bidethal gets his retributive justice, right?
Yes. Karsa removes his genitals and stuffs them in his mouth, and Bidethal dies, and finds himself at Hood's Gate, ready to be tortured forever.
It seems to be special treatment. We don't get the impression Hood's a big torturer.
Yeah.
It's all special.
Bidethal's a special guy. Yeah, like I very much try and take the notion of compassion to heart, but it's very difficult when someone is raping, mutilating children. Maybe that's a character flaw on my part, but I just don't like those people. I find it very hard not to find satisfaction in this.
How dare you?
Erickson said that Bidethal and the way that this ends up is his rejection of like absolute cultural relativism.
Mm-hmm.
That makes sense.
Like he's like, no, you have to draw the line somewhere.
Yeah.
It's a big thing in anthropology, trying to be non-judgmental of other people's cultures, especially when you're studying them. Yeah, so sometimes you just kind of have to throw that out, right?
That's what Erickson
They
thinks.
should stop it.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's been the most consistent theme, I think, in this book: the clashing of cultures and different values, and realizing, what's wrong.
Definitely think it's at least one of the big themes in this book. Karsa's really cool in this chapter.
Really cool in this chapter.
Yeah, he just kind of goes through the camp and he kills all the people who he wanted dead for a while now, in very satisfying ways. Febrile kind of tries to make a break for it, and then he gets his neck snapped by Karsa, who's like, "I never liked you," and I think we can all agree with that. And then he wrestles the Hounds of Darkness, who have been established to be very dangerous, let's say, and he just kills them. Go Karsa, man.
He has a little bit of a struggle about it.
Yeah.
Not much.
Not as much as basically anyone else would have.
I'm happy Gamut got a good ending.
Yeah.
That whole scene where he doesn't realize he's dead, but he dies and is joined. And he joins the ghosts. I really thought was beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't
Yeah,
understand that he was dead in that scene.
Well, Nil and others see him, and later they tell Tabor, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah. By that
he,
point, Ashaman had already told me.
Yeah, he has an aneurysm, and it's just like it's like classic symptoms, right? He goes blind, just like stabbing pain in his head, and then everything goes dark, and then suddenly he's standing outside of his tent in full armor, and he feels fine. And then he rides off into the sunset with these people that are, quote, going to the shore. That's a metaphor, by the way.
What's the metaphor?
The shore is the boundary between two places. In this case, life and death.
Ah.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I thought that was a
realm of the
reference
dead.
to the fact that Raraku used to be, an ocean, and there was water there.
It could also be that.
So, Paran sanctions the House of Chains off camera here.
Well, we knew you were going to do it.
Yeah. I wonder what that looked like. Was he just like looking at the deck of dragons and like, I sanction you?
Right?
Probably.
I really like how this sort of resolves the notion of vengeance for the chain of dogs. It's not people taking vengeance on behalf of them. It's basically the people in the chain themselves coming back from beyond the grave, righting the scales themselves, and then fading off into nothing. Which I think is a very beautiful way of balancing the scales, or ending the cycle. Because this could have just gone on forever and ever and ever and ever and ever and ever and ever, because that's what cycles of violence do. But in this case, there's sort of like a supernatural ending to it, which, as far as I can tell, is the most clean way of ending these things.
If I'm being honest, my first time, I was really let down by the anticlimactic ending. But this reading, I actually really appreciated that aspect and thought it was a perfect ending. And that not only that, but that the rebellion kind of tore itself apart at the end instead of from an outside influence.
Same.
I thought
And it
there was a lot of foreshadowing that happened, and so that's what made it feel anticlimactic. Like,
What do you mean? What do you mean?
like throughout the basically second half of the book, there was just a lot of foreshadowing. Like we know the plans of people to betray each other. We knew that Rare Crew was awakening. We knew a bunch of these things, like so and so was not going to be killed by the hand, like Belisol was not going to be killed by the hand of Haboric or whatever. There was just a lot of foreshadowing, and like once we got into the, I guess, climax of the ending, it was just things playing out, and Parsa became very predictable. Like he was just a bulldozer basically at the end, which I think if I were watching this as like on screen, it would be more exciting for me, because there would be the music, there would be the setting, the costuming, like all the cinematography and all of that. But reading it, I was just like, yeah, I already knew that was going to happen. It's just like at that point, kind of going through the motions.
Did you expect the Wiccans to resolve the Dog Slayers themselves?
Well, it was the ghosts. Like, we knew that the ghosts were coming, right? The whole thing about the song, we're seeing the ghosts like coming here and there, and it didn't feel like the big kind of twists that we got in the previous books. And so I was just like, okay, that's it.
So your experience was hampered by the foreshadowing.
Yeah. And also the goddess was kind of disappointing. Like she was built up so much, and it was just like there was a lot of bark and very little bite.
Well, like disappointing in what way? Like she didn't have an interesting character to you, or?
I mean, she was kind of just like, oh, she is this mighty force. She's all about destruction. And in the end, like the destruction wasn't really caused by her. It was caused by all the other characters when this all. I mean, you could say that, well, she was the one who brought them all together and put them into these situations to then therefore cause the destruction. Like, yeah, but ultimately, like, she didn't do a ton of destruction in the climax.
And it all only took a hand of talons to take her out, right?
Apparently.
Well,
Yeah.
And these mysterious chains.
And these mysterious chains.
Not so mysterious, though, right?
Yeah, I thought she was very fitting. I think she captured the essence of these things very well, because like rebellions like these are pretty fundamentally about vengeance, right? And this is what vengeance leads to. It's not very awesome. It's not a cool. Yeah, it felt very fitting to me. I think Ericsson's very responsible here in not glorifying the revenge, basically, because there are lots of revenge stories out there, and lots of them have the superficial message of don't go chasing revenge because that'll end poorly for you. But they still have these big climactic endings where the good guy kills all of the people who wronged him, and it's turned out well.
It undermines their own message.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, I wasn't
I-
expecting like, I guess what I was hoping for was that she would have meant something more. And in the end, like all the revenge stuff, it just petered out. Like, yeah, I guess if we get into chapter 26, how things end for Felison and Tavor, just like, eh. Like, I actually ended up not caring all that much about how it ended.
You're a monster. You're an
Yeah, I
unfeeling cold
cried.
monster.
Yeah,
I did not
cried.
cry.
I messaged Hurinfan about how I was crying about it.
I cried hard.
Yeah, I just maybe I have a heart of ice.
It's cold as ice.
I was just thinking the same thing of the lyrics.
The Holy Book makes an escape. Woohoo! This will probably happen again.
But
Holy
like,
books.
Methok knew that it was BS.
Sort of, yeah. He's like, this is
Leoman was like,
and Drishna, or at least the Whirlwind Goddess.
well, Leoman was like, the book is not a prophecy. It's about a bunch of stuff that already happened in the past. And Mathok's like, I know. And so the whole religion behind the rebellion was like, just totally whack.
I did think it was
new.
funny how it's a history instead of a prophecy. But, sometimes the two are very close together.
Quotes?
Yeah. Who wants to share first?
I got some.
Go ahead.
I liked Kalam and Quickpen watching Karsa kill the Hounds of Darkness. And Kalam's like, wizard? And he's like, aye. And he's like, let's drop off the Napon and get out of here. A brilliant plan. I just thought it up. I like it very much. Well done, Kalam. Like I always told you, Quick, I ain't just a pretty face. Yeah, there's such a great response to that, and also I love their buddy cop moments. And we haven't really got that since Gardens of the Moon. So
No, we haven't. Like there were so many teases of, I mean, I guess mostly this is a me thing. The parts that I enjoy in this book, they were just so short. And it's mostly between like the Malazan soldiers, their interactions, and I wanted more of that.
yes, I agree with that. I wanted more of it too. But I like what I got.
I did like what I got, yeah.
And I also appreciated this thoughtful. A fell night, this one. Ghouls, assassins, warrens, silent battles. Does no one in this world ever sleep?
No, none of them do.
Anyone else with quotes?
I got one from Fiddler. I think it's glorious. The glory of battle, Quirk, dwells only in the bard's voice and the teller's woven words. Glory belongs to ghosts and poets. What you hear and dream isn't the same as what you live. Blur the distinction at your own peril, lad.
Yeah.
And the glory in this battle belonged to the ghosts.
Mm-hmm.
He's right. I don't think Erickson glorifies war.
Yeah, he really doesn't. Chapter 26. Cool. Shaik challenges Tavor. The Whirlwind Goddess is cut down. Felison regains control of herself, only to die on her sister's blade. Leoman scatters the tribes. Pearl and Lestara hide a body. Karsa makes his peace with the Empire. The Leosin are humbled further and make a tactical retreat. Fiddler is saved by an old friend. Raraku floods. Cutter is given an escort mission.
Panda?
Yes.
Thoughts?
It was fine.
She's got spicy thoughts.
Um,
Spice!
It was fine.
Needs to be spicier.
I mean, Tavor killing Felison the way that she did, like, I wasn't quite surprised by it. And I guess part of it is I was tired of reading the book by that point. And when it finally happened, I was like, finally, something happened and it ended. Did I feel bad for Felison? Yes. Did I feel bad for Tavor? Yes. Was enough to make me cry? No. And honestly, it was just like, cool. They're trying to save Tavor's feelings by not telling her that Shaik is Felison. Cool. So
I think almost as much as the murder, I was moved by the pathos of those two, Lestari, Yale, and Pearl.
yeah, I mean, they did what they thought was best. So
You're as cold as ice.
Maybe
Wait,
if I later on I reread this, if I reread it, I'll feel differently. But at this point, I'm just really glad it's over.
Harsh.
Yeah. I thought it was quite sad and a very fitting tragedy. We also get what I believe is the fulfillment of Opan's deal with not Hood, but that gatekeeper. Felison, it seems to me, is pretty much ready to just give up on vengeance right before she gets impaled. I think that's sad.
Also, sorry, I remember back in Gardens, like I had thought that Felison was gonna die.
Yeah, you did think that.
I did, and I had said, hey, I think she's the one that is close to Perron that gets killed in exchange for his life, blah blah blah. And I guess at this point I was just like, finally, I don't know.
But it's really hard to say if it was Felison because there's 3 people that have died in the Perron family since that deal was signed.
Mm-hmm.
But like the relationship between him and his mother and his father weren't like the loving kind of relationship that was described between Felison and Ganois. So that was mostly why I had thought it would be Felison.
It's been a point of conversation in the fandom for a long time, and Steve recently confirmed it was Felison.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay.
To me, the most Opan thing about it is that when the two are coming close together, Felison raises her hand, and she doesn't know what it looks like, and she doesn't even know why she really does it, which leads to Devore batting her sword out her hand and impaling her immediately. Before that, there might have been a conversation between the two, but bad luck.
And the last thing she thinks is, why didn't you love me?
Yeah.
I was on my way to work, and I'm like
Aww.
trying to drive to work.
It's like when you accidentally hit your dog, and it kind of like looks at you all sad. It's like it didn't know what it did wrong. It didn't know that it didn't do anything wrong, but it thinks it did. This is the most tragic stuff ever, and you don't think so? I'm sorry. That's Fast and Furious is a bad movie franchise.
I mean, okay, thanks. I think I know maybe what my reading experience is, why I don't feel as deeply about this tragedy. I was not immersed when I was reading the last section of the book. Like, I think if I had been more immersed in the reading experience, I would have felt more. But like I said, like at that point, I was just ready to be done.
What would you have wanted to be different?
It's hard to pinpoint exactly what. I mean, part of it is like I felt a lot of like emotional pain reading the ending of Memories of Ice. Like I was very invested and very immersed, and I cared a lot about the bridge burners. In this one, I did not care very much about the Army of the Apocalypse. And it was mostly reading about how they were tearing each other apart, and very little was focused on the Malazans, really. Let me tell you, if it had been Fiddler, I would have felt very differently, I think, because I had that attachment to Fiddler. Whereas with Felison, like, because she was overtaken by the goddess, and it was just like all you're really seeing is the goddess, I kind of just became detached from the character.
See, for me, I kept everything from Dead House Gates attached to Felison. So like that was like it was like the whole book was pausing the resolution of Dead House Gates, and then the tragedy at the end is like the conclusion of Dead House Gates, basically. If that makes sense.
That makes sense.
Like for Felison.
Yeah.
So like I still had all that attachment I built up for Felison reading Dead House Gates 3 times. And so that was, and then also like I know we don't get a lot of insight into Tavor's head, but like I felt really bad for Tavor as well, even though she doesn't know. Like
Right.
And I was expecting Felison to say something as she was dying, and for Tavor to find out, and then that didn't happen. But I knew that they weren't going to tell her. Once Felison didn't tell her, I knew they weren't going to. But it's still sad though. Like I was still upset as they were deciding not to tell her.
Well, that'll be the the hot take from me for this episode. So
Spicy.
It felt rather lukewarm.
I will say
because that's how I feel about it. I feel lukewarm. I don't hate it.
I will say if I had only read Deadhouse Gates one time, I might not have been as affected by the Fellison ending. So I might have been more in your shoes. But you know, I've read the Fellison stuff a lot.
I thought it was really funny how Karsa confronts Tavor, and he's like, "I've decided not to kill you all." And then Tavor's like, "Thank you, I'm very relieved."
You should be.
Karsa rides off into the sunset.
And Kenneth's like, I think the was right. And Tavor's like, I'm not gonna argue with you.
Yeah.
And as Karsa's approaching, because we've been with Karsa this entire time, and we've been like really attached to his viewpoint, especially at the beginning, but even like throughout the books. And up until this point, we've only been able to step outside of Karsa and look at him from outside, at least in House of Chains, a couple of times. Like once was like Lorik, I think, and once was with Kalam and Quickben. And you see him coming up to the soldiers, and they're all like, "What is that?" Like he's dragging these demon bodies behind him, and the other one's like, "Look at that sword! He hasn't even taken it out. It's a Talane Mass sword, but bigger." It's like so comical. Like how you see all this stuff gradually kind of accumulate over hundreds of pages, and they're seeing the final product like with no preconceptions about him at all, and they're just like, "What the hell?"
Mm-hmm. Just this guy that comes out and is like, "I'm not going to kill you."
Who are you? Thank you.
Well, one guy recognizes him. It's like, "Oh, you're the bodyguard," and he's like, "Shut up."
Yeah. I also really like how Lieutenant Renal gets like a heroic silhouette on the top of a hill as he like does like the Napoleon thing.
And he ends up on Cuddle.
Then he gets blown up.
Yeah, I really was ready for him to not be in the picture anymore.
Now
So
he's not.
is Cuddle the one who killed nobles from the chain of dogs?
Yes,
killed
he
one
did.
of them at least. Yeah.
So like that
Well, that's
battle was really chaotic. Did Cuddle maybe intentionally end up wearing Renal? Seems he had it in for the noble.
I think Fiddler's explosives just kind of splatter and all over Cuddle.
Yeah.
So it was an accident.
Mm-hmm.
I believe
Yeah.
so. It would be hard to plan that.
And Fiddler gets saved by who is it?
Hedge.
Ooh.
And the bridge
That
burners
was
ascended. Yay.
He's back.
At least
sort
the
of.
dead ones did. That part was interesting where it's like in order for the song to like take effect, the bridge burners had to die, and then Kalam and Fiddler had to come back to the desert. I mean, it is a bit convoluted, but I will appreciate it for what it is.
Well, it
Yeah.
makes me wonder, like, if Fiddler trips and falls over and cracks his skull open tomorrow, will he ascend? Or is it like you had to, get in there within these dates, or ticket to ascendancy is revoked?
Yeah, I don't know.
I think it really brings it to question like the notion of fate here, because Kimlock did his song before the Bridgeburners died, and you would think he wouldn't know that they were going to die, right?
I mean, they would
Maybe-
die eventually.
Yeah, but not in the way that happened here, right? Like he didn't
I
know
guess-
that Fiddler was
But do
going to
you
go to Ruraku to basically unleash all the things, stuff like that.
But do you think that Kimlock knew only the dead ones would ascend? Like, because we've seen people who ascend without dying. So,
I'll be honest, Kimlock is pretty enigmatic. I don't know.
How much of it do you think was Kimlock's song, and how much do you think was Perrin's blessing?
I think it's like one's the base and the other one's the activator.
What he said.
And then you have to take into
Evo?
consideration the encounter Kalam had with that Spirit Walker, which may or may not have set these events in motion.
Mm-hmm.
Almost epilogue. Leos and Hilarious. They get blown up.
But
They
still
say
survive.
still survive. They say that they're going to go back to their hometown, rest a bit, start chasing after Olar Ethel. Sure, that's going to go great. How do you guys think the Leosin are going to react to all the news that they bring?
What?
Well, they kind of galloped out of their warren very self-righteous and thinking that nothing can stop them, right? Turns out
Oh,
the
you
world
mean
outside is like
bringing it
incredibly
back?
dangerous. Yeah,
Back
bring
to-
news back. And just as their god has died, apparently.
I don't know.
It'll be an interesting conversation that starts spreading through the Leosin homeland.
Mm-hmm. And then Cutter is given the opportunity to protect Felsen Younger because Cotillion cares about people. Good guy, Cotillion.
I like
Really good too.
I like that they. I don't know what chapter it's in. I didn't make a note of it, even though I thought about it. Cotillion establishes that there's a difference between being a god and being a patron, and that being a
Yeah.
patron comes with responsibilities. And it kind of feels like Cotillion's view on being a patron is similar to Karsa's view of being a god.
Yeah, indeed.
Yep.
Now epilogue?
Okay.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Troll dives into Midnight Tides. He just gets right into it.
Troll and Onrak fanfic. There must be some.
It probably is.
What,
I
like
mean,
boning?
the dude is like crying for Onrak because Onrak cannot cry himself. That's how close.
How
they
much
are.
of a bro he is.
Go ahead, Yasna.
So they talk about in this book, they talk about the idea that the troll brings up the idea that the Talanimas could just have somebody that they want to sit on the first throne. Or is that what it's called, the first throne?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And Onrak's like, who would we trust? Or maybe it was Monarch. Somebody was like, who could we trust? What mortal could we trust with that responsibility? So I'm just gonna make a wild prediction that mortal's troll.
Mm.
And
Well, currently
that
it's Kellenved.
right, but they didn't trust him. He just did it.
They're
So
like, this guy isn't like exploiting us out of our minds. What's going on?
I'm wondering if maybe Troll finishes his story and they have their big battle, and during the course of that battle, they decide Troll has to claim the first throne. That's my speculation.
I thought they made mention that they thought it would be the Flesh and Bone Bonecaster. No? Did I ever eat?
They said that whoever would sit on the first throne now would have control over Silver Fox.
Mm-hmm.
Right, okay.
And
Although,
that could be abused, basically. Is you know.
I sort of wonder if, maybe she could sit on the throne. Who knows? I don't have much else to say about this book. I think the ending was about perfect. The themes were very strong. We get introduced to a lot of cool characters. Mm-hmm.
Actually, I think out of the 4 books so far, this has the strongest theming, for me at least.
I agree.
Though I read it, I read and enjoyed it as a sequel to Dead House Gates, more so, and like a wrap up of Dead House Gates. Whereas like Erickson has said that he like intended it as like a closing off of all 3 of the first 3 books and an opening up of the next 6.
Mm-hmm.
So like I don't know if I would have enjoyed it as much as I did like in a vacuum. Like it works because Dead House Gates built up all that it built up.
Mm-hmm. It built up a lot of trauma that this book answered, essentially.
Right, exactly. Which is why I liked it.
Mm-hmm. It was just like a lot of catharsis.
Yes.
Yeah.
Which is an aspect of Erickson's writing that fascinates me. So that's why I loved it.
Mm-hmm.
Listener question? I mean, Lady Sweden questions?
All right, so Lady Sweden asks, so Treach and the Crippled God seem to share a tendency to lift up people that are reluctant to play a key role. Why do you think this is? Can a House of Cats and broken people ever actually reach their goals? Will some servants be willing and survive? So I guess that's Jasnah and Panda.
Does
Hello?
Yasna have an answer?
Okay.
I'm looking at Panda like, does Panda have an answer?
No answer? Okay, I'll just cut it out.
I'll just say, often those who are most unwilling make the best fit.
Yeah, And that seems to be a theme in this book.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Hyborg does pretty well. Okay, well, our forest, the traveler, who is he? Timber, who is she? How do you feel? Do you feel you know yet?
Well, we know
Okay.
Traveler's Das and Hilton, right?
No, we don't.
Panda
yet
and
know.
I know.
Right. Okay.
Oh, Timber. I forgot to talk about her. She and Tavor clearly have an interesting relationship. The first thing that she says when I think Kaneb goes to fetch her is she ready for a morning sparring session? This makes me wonder: were they sparring or were they making out? How much of it was both? Because like initially we think it's just that good old steam releasing the old-fashioned way. But yeah, sort of makes me wonder if Tavor ever turns off.
I think the answer is no.
Hmm.
I think how Tavor processes when she is frustrated or she needs to work through something, she does it physically, like going through things that she is familiar with, whether it's like punching or sword exercises. I don't know. It's something that she has control over.
Reminds me very much of a certain protagonist from Wheel of Time.
Next question.
Mm-hmm.
Favorite, least favorite storylines. Ash.
Trull and Onrak. This book. Yep. They have good banter. They have dry humor. Trull is cool. Not much more to say, really.
Least favorite.
Least favorite is Cutter and Absalar.
Okay.
I just can't. I can't really stand Cutter or Crocus at any point.
Panda. Favorite.
Anything that has Fiddler.
Okay. Least favorite.
Anything that has Gamut.
I thought you were going to say anything that doesn't have Fiddler.
I mean, pretty much. I figured that, that was kind of a given, but if you wanted to be specific, Gamut.
I thought you were going to say the apocalypse, but
Sure, the whole dang thing.
Yasa.
Mm.
Favorite.
I like I guess I like anything with the 14th Army and Kalam, which is two favorites, but
That's
and then least favorite is I don't know. I can't. You're asking me to kill my children. I can't do it.
Kill your children.
I guess Cutter and Absalar, but I liked that stuff too. So
I liked it too.
it's like least of favorites.
My favorite was Karsa's. My least favorite was. I'm tempted to say Cutter and Absalar too, but I actually really like that. I really did like their stuff, especially with
Did you like Cutter and Absalar, or did you like Andarist and Traveler and Cotillion?
That was Cutter and Absalar's story.
But it wasn't because of them. It was, the other characters that made it interesting.
I like Cutter and Absalar.
All right.
But that's the story. It was least favorite story, right?
Storyline.
Yeah.
I will make an amendment to my least favorite storyline answer. The part where Gamut was with the ghost. That part I did like, but everything else I.
Oh, good.
All right, the next question from Lee Sweeting. Were some of the storylines unnecessary? For me, it didn't really seem to see the point of the Lestariel Pearl storyline and wasn't really jamming with the Onrak Troll Sangar after they went to the Throne Quest. I think Panda will have opinions about Gamut's storyline, right?
We already went over that.
Okay, so that's Panda's answer. What do you think, Ash?
I don't think anything was extraneous. Yep. I think it all served a purpose, whether thematically or developing characters that are important, or providing some interesting exposition on the nature of the world, or were important for this plot and later on.
I will say this time I really enjoyed the Onrak Troll stuff, but my other readings I didn't care at all. And it's important for later stuff, but that's all I'll say. Yes, no?
Yeah, no, I agree with Ash.
I agree with Ash too.
Nice.
I really like Lestariel Pearl and Pearl's sections too, so.
I did too. That was the most like D&D crap in the whole book.
Yeah.
The Orotaro Dragon?
Yeah.
Oh, so cool.
And their banter?
Yeah.
And it also didn't take up very much page time.
Yeah, not much at all.
Yeah.
And I'm only slightly biased. Yeah. I'm only slightly biased because their relationship is reminiscent of mine with my wife.
Who's Lostara?
Her, I'm sure.
Ah, okay.
Especially the switcheroo she does, where once he like caves to her, she's like, "Oh, you're just gonna listen to me? What?" Yeah.
So she's a switch, is what you're saying.
Not the way that means when you say it that way.
I don't get it. Okay, last one. Which character would you love to have a POV book in book like Karsa got here the most, and which would you hate / have a real hard time to get through of the bigger regular characters?
I would have a hard time reading more from Corbolodom or Bidithal.
I think she's looking for bigger characters.
Bigger characters. Okay. Karks is pretty big, but I like him.
I would, while you're thinking, I would not want a book one of one of these books to be all Cutter.
Oh, that was my answer.
Yeah.
I was about to say that.
Yeah, that's fair. Maybe Leoman?
Why?
Why? I don't like him. He's just kind of like a cynical, mean-spirited guy.
Don't like him much either.
Who is like, he just kind of like cynically takes advantage of the rebellion for some reason.
He's
Panda, what's your
competent,
answer?
though.
I
Like,
guess we're all
I
giving
think
our hate.
mostly it's that I don't like incompetent characters. That really turns me off. I mean, if they start out incompetent and then there's a character growth and all of that, that's great. But it's not my favorite thing to read about. I don't know. I would just want to give my favorite, like, just give me more of. It wouldn't be like one single POV because I do like the difference in the banter and the relationships of the Malazan soldiers. So I just want more of that.
Oh, the one who I would want more of. Sin. Yep.
Yeah, see, I completely forgot about her until at the very end when she like made a small appearance, and I was like, cool.
It's easy to forget about her.
The people who I would want a Karsa style opener for would be Tavor or Leoman.
I want Calor.
Oh,
Calor.
that's a good answer. I was
would
only
also be
thinking
good.
this book. I was only thinking of this book. Yeah.
Thing.
I don't think I could survive Calor.
Well, if we're allowed to do all books, then I'll just say Animander Rig.
I would love that, but at the same time, I don't want it because Animander is so cool from other people's perspective.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want him to be ruined for me.
This is for all of our listeners. Read Carcanus.
I knew
That
you
is
were
all.
going to say that. I knew you were going to
Yes.
say that.
Wait, is there
very
more Animander in that?
Before Carcanus was released, it was kind of touted as the Animander trilogy. It's not. It's not.
not.
Animander, but
Oh,
he's in
okay.
quite a bit.
He is in it, yes.
Okay. Wait, when can I read that?
After book 10.
Ah, okay.
That concludes this episode. If you want to join the read along and or contribute listener questions, check us out in the Legendarium's Discord. You can find the link on thelegendarium.com. Also follow us on Twitter @GreenTeamPod for updates and fun times. Check out the Legendarium podcast for Wheel of Time, Cosmere, Lord of the Rings content, and so much more. Thank you to our panelists, Ashaman, JasnahAsABoy, and BefuddledPanda. I am Hurinfan. Goodbye.
Don't yell at me. Thank
Yell
you.
at
See ya.
Panda.
Yell at Panda.
Don't
No,
yell
but
at Panda.
don't really. Don't really.
Don't really yell at Panda. Don't.
Maybe engage her in a
Bye.
respectful manner.
No, that's too much.
Too forward.